And welcome to the show, Our Islam and Community Issues. I will be your host today, Naeem Sharif. And to my left, we have a special guest today, Jordan Newberry. Thank you, sir, for coming. Appreciate it. Of Buffalo Soldiers. And to my far left, Brother Benjamin Shabazz.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam. Did you want to open us up with a quick one?
All right. With the name of God, the Creator, most gracious, the most merciful, we ask that He bless us to have a successful show. Ameen.
Amen. All right. Well, thank you very much. Today we have, like I said, we have the Buffalo Soldiers of Seattle. We have the president, Brother Jordan Newbill. We thank you very much for coming. And I see that you are in your business uniform. Yeah. Looking good. Looking good. So let's go to some of the things. The term Buffalo Soldiers, what does that refer to?
Well, the Buffalo Soldiers refers to the all-black units that fought in the post-Civil War from 1866 until the 1950s. The order was given in the 1940s for, I guess, the Army to be desegregated, and it wasn't fully executed until 1952.
Oh, wow.
So all black soldiers that fought in the United States military from 1866 until 1952 were considered Buffalo Soldiers.
Now that I didn't know. I didn't know it went that long.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's, you know, the dates are a little mixed and jumbled. You'll see different dates in different books and different articles online, but, you know, it went into the 50s.
Oh, wow. So now did the Native Americans, did they come up kind of with that term?
Yeah. So the Cheyenne Native Americans came up with the term Buffalo Soldiers, and they bestowed that name upon the black troops because of, some people say, their woolly hair. Some people say the black man kind of resembled the buffalo with his dark skin, dark eyes, and hair. And then also, when backed into a corner, the black man fought hard and courageous like the buffalo, sometimes taking 2, 3 arrows, 4 or 5 gunshots, and still fighting because that's all they could do was fight. They had nothing to retreat to, nothing to run to. These brothers had to live and die right there on the battlefield.
Wow. Why don't we show one of the pictures? Kind of comment on one of the pictures that come up, and so people will know exactly what we're talking about. And that should be coming up shortly. There we go. So tell us about this picture.
All right, this picture was actually taken right here in Olympia.
Really?
Yeah, it was taken right here in Olympia. We were doing an event over at the state capitol, and this was like a fundraising fund drive event, and we had set up a display here, and that's the vice president of our organization, Leonard Howes, right there, Leonard Howes Jr.
Where's Leonard?
Yeah, that's Leonard Howes Jr. That's his son right there with the brown hat.
Okay.
And then the brother in the middle right there is Jerome Young, AKA the Outlaw, and he is our horse specialist. So he owns Legends Horse Training and Boarding Facility out in Roy, Washington. And yeah, we went there, we shared a little bit of history with the folks, and we set up a nice display table you see there. And
I see, yeah.
that's kind of what we do. We go around, we set up display tables, and we share the history of the Buffalo Soldiers.
I
So
see.
what's on that table?
So you can, Ben, you can turn around, you can really see it good. So
oh,
you,
yeah, look at all those guys.
yeah, so you got, so you got your rifles,
Yep.
and then what else you got?
So you see right there where I'm standing and my hands are on, that's a McClellan saddle there. So that's a saddle. Then we have a few newspaper articles on the table there. We have a few old replica rifles. You have a horn there, a cup, a few pictures of us doing some maneuvers out in the field. You can't really see the pictures that well, but a couple of those pictures, horses are laying down on the ground, and that's a maneuver called fording your horse. So the soldiers back in the day, you know, they were campaigning in the Southwest, where it's pretty flat territory. There's not too many trees or rocks or anything like that to hide behind. So what they would do is they would lay their horses down in the tall grass and take cover behind their horses to stage an ambush, or, you know, so people couldn't see them from the far, or sometimes even up close.
So how do you get your horse to lay down like that?
Well, you got to have a guy like that in the middle there. That's a real good horse trainer, and you teach him to lay down. It's a pretty, after you learn it, it's a pretty easy technique. Your horse has to trust you a lot, you know. Once you gain that trust from your horse, and you have that confidence within yourself to execute the maneuver, horse will go down pretty easy.
Wow.
So we get them to lay down like that, and we do certain things, like you can't see it that well in the picture, but we all have our rifles, our sidearms out, and you know, we can fire a couple volleys over the top of the horse, and the horse will lay there. And if you know anything about horses, you shoot a gun around a horse will take right off.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, our horses will lay there, and they'll let us do what we do.
I never learned that watching the Lone Ranger.
You never saw that trick.
Well, man, since you brought that up, you know about the Lone Ranger, don't you?
Talking about Bass Reeves.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
real Lone Ranger.
Real Lone Ranger.
Real Lone Ranger, Bass Reeves. That's something that we do everywhere we go. We tell the history of not just the Buffalo Soldiers, but black cowboys in general. And Bass Reeves being one of the most famous black cowboys, with a TV show that's pretty much made off of him and his legacy. We like to tell that story. But also, with going to tell that story, you have to tell the story of the Native Americans as well. Because Bass Reeves' sidekick, his name is Tonto. Tonto is a derogatory term used towards Native Americans. Or in their language, it's a derogatory term. So we like to go and tell people, because people use the term so freely.
Right.
But Tonto means dense or dum-dum
Stupid.
in the native tongue. Yeah, stupid.
Yeah.
So for all these years, people been running around calling Bass Reeves, the Lone Ranger sidekick, stupid, dum-dum. Why would they give that man that name? Maybe because he's running beside, he was the only one to have a black man's back.
Oh.
But even Kemosabe,
Yeah.
you know, meant the wise one. Yeah, so it's all racism was tied into it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he, you know, he did an interview once, Jay Silverheels. Yeah, and he talked about that.
Is that right?
Talked about the racism in the show, and you know how at one point they would always say, "Who was that masked man?" That was the Lone Ranger, but they both riding off together.
Right.
Then they stopped doing that, and they say that's the Lone Ranger and Tonto. I mean, you know, just different little language things in there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah, like you say, there's a lot of African American history in the West,
Oh yeah.
and we don't hear about it.
Yeah, well, 1 in 4 cowboys in the West was black, but that representation isn't showed on your Westerns or in the history books.
Right.
The term cowboy alone, a lot of people don't know, was actually a derogatory term. You know, back in the day, slavery, if you worked in the house, you were a houseboy.
Right.
You worked in the field, you were a field boy. You worked with the horses and the cows, you were a cowboy.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
So, you know, a lot of folks don't know that. You hear the term cowboy up. Well, that was because cowboy, get up. You done fell off that horse. Get up. Get back on that horse. Get back on that bull. Get back on that cow. You know, rodeoing and all that. A lot of people don't know how rodeoing came about, but it came about because there was a master here and a master there that said, "Hey man, I got this boy right here. I got this cowboy that'll ride a bull all day. I got a cowboy over here that'll break a horse in 10 minutes, 15 seconds. Oh yeah, well he's not better than mine. I bet you money he is." Now you got these guys competing against each other, which turns into a show. Now you got the rodeo.
The rodeo. Wow. Man. So I guess we didn't get that history in school at all. None of that.
Same thing with boxing.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, they pit the slaves against each other.
oh yeah.
Now they just get paid to do it.
Now they get paid to do it, and you don't have to just fight somebody of your own
Yeah,
race.
yeah,
Yeah.
You can have something like Wilder Fury.
yeah.
Wow, that's amazing. So what is the mission or the goal of the Buffalo Soldiers organization in Seattle?
Well, our mission is to educate men, women, and children about the history of the Buffalo Soldiers. But not just the history of the Buffalo Soldiers. Our mission is to get folks back outdoors, to enjoy country life, to enjoy going out, going hiking, camping, fishing, hunting, things of that such. We like to be able to teach those skills to the youth, and not just to the youth, but to the general public. You know, a lot of people in our community don't really get a chance to enjoy the outdoors.
Right, yeah.
And like to know the outdoors isn't a scary place. It's actually a pretty fun place
Yeah,
if you just get out there and get to it. So it's one thing that we,
Well, that's good.
that's,
Yeah.
that's
So,
the
it's
main objective of our mission.
yeah, so that's very, very broad.
because everybody's on the phone.
Yep, everybody's on the phone.
Everybody's on the phone.
Video
Video
games.
games, man.
Inside watching TV. You know, when I grew up, we was outside on our bikes. You know, we was outside on our bikes,
Right.
going and playing. You know, going to friend's house, and you know, we ride our bikes from one friend's house to the next friend's house, from next friend's house to the next friend's house. And man, in my same neighborhood, I don't see no kids out on bikes no more.
Oh yeah, you don't see kids outside.
You know, you would literally hear a basketball bouncing outside, up and down the street, because we're walking to the park to go play basketball. I would be inside and I hear the ball bouncing, and that let me know, oh, my boys is outside.
It's time.
It's time
yeah,
to, hey,
it's time.
hey, mom, dad, can I go outside?
Wow. Well, I didn't know you guys did all that. That's outstanding. That is outstanding. So now, is there a film coming out of the Buffalo Soldiers of the Pacific Northwest? Has that come out yet?
Yeah. So there's a documentary film coming out called Buffalo Soldiers of the Pacific Northwest, where they highlight the history of the Buffalo Soldiers here in the Pacific Northwest, and they highlight Moses Williams. Moses Williams was a Medal of Honor recipient that served in the Indian Wars, but after his service in the Indian Wars, he was stationed out here in the Northwest, and he actually passed out here in the Northwest, and he's still right here in the
Still right here.
in the Northwest, down at the Fort Vancouver. So
Okay.
anybody ever goes down to Fort Vancouver, go down there and check out Moses Williams.
Moses Williams. Okay.
Yep.
All right. Well, tell us a little bit more about some of your other members. You mentioned there's 3 of you there, and about how many members do you have?
So there in that picture, you can see we have on our uniforms and all that. So we can suit up maybe about 12 of us, anywhere, yeah. Depends on if people come out.
Right,
But
right.
we can suit up anywhere from about 10 to 12 of us. And then mostly everything that we do is mounted. So when you see us out in the community, out in a parade or a festival or something like that, most of the time we have a horse with us. And we can mount up maybe about 9 guys. So when we say mount up 9 guys, that means 9 guys in those saddles that you see there in that picture with the uniform on, 100% historically correct. So when you see us out on a parade route or at your local festival or something, and we have on our uniforms and we're on horses, that is the way that a Buffalo Soldier looked in the 1870s.
Wow. So I guess the question, what made you join?
Well, man, I actually joined when I was about 7 years old. And the brother that we talked about earlier, Leonard House, he was the president of Leonard House Sr. He was the president of our organization. And him and a group of gentlemen, they started the Buffalo Soldier Cadet Program. And I was one of the first members of the cadet program, myself and Leonard House Jr. there,
Okay.
and a few other young men. And man, I used to see these guys in the parade, the Black Community Festival parade that used to go right down
23rd.
23rd. Well, it went down Martin Luther
MLK,
King
yeah,
at
that's right,
first,
that's right,
and
that's
I believe it was called was it called the Mardi Gras
Mardi
parade
Gras
back in the day?
Mardi Gras parade, yeah.
So it went down 23rd at first, and it was actually a pretty big deal.
It was.
You know, that
yeah.
parade was a big deal. There was, you know, we participated in it now every year, and it's still a pretty big deal. We are honored to lead that parade off every year. But man, back in the day, you would have, you know, all the Seafair officials there.
Oh,
and
yeah,
you would
I
have
remember,
the
yeah.
Seafair pirates and
Yeah.
the Keystone cops. They would be
Yeah.
on their little
Yeah.
car with the hydraulics, and they'd be hopping out doing all type
Yeah.
of crazy stuff. And there was a lot of entries in that parade. And man, I would be a young man watching that parade, and I would see the Buffalo Soldiers come riding by on their horses, and I was like, man, that's awesome. I would love to do that.
Yeah.
You know, the cadet program came about, and that was my opportunity, and I was first in line to sign up.
There you
I
go.
was first in line
There you go.
to be enlisted. So,
Outstanding.
excuse me. So yeah,
Yeah.
that's what draw my interest. I always loved cowboys, horses, all that stuff. So man, that was my opportunity there.
Very good.
So
Well,
did you know Purcell?
Parcell.
What's his last name? Purcell.
You might be talking about my cousin. I have a cousin named Parcell.
He did a lot of time.
I think he did a little bit. I think. I'm
Yeah.
not totally for sure.
He's out now.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, he's the one that introduced us to Leonard.
Oh, well, that's my cousin then.
Yeah.
Did he? Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's probably my
Yeah,
cousin.
and we used to do the Eid at the park. Did you ever come to those? And the horses would be out there.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, and Leonard would bring the horses out there, and we'd ride the horses.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, Brother Purcell.
Okay. All right. Well, let's show another picture and see what we have here. But yeah, that's amazing. Yeah, those parades. Yeah. So what do we have here?
So this picture right here is actually taken down in Oakland, California.
Okay.
So every year we go down and we team up with the Oakland Black Cowboys Association, and we go participate in their parade and festival. So we've been doing that for about the past 3 years. This year coming up will actually be the 3rd year that we go down and participate. This brother right here is actually Brother James Jones. I grew up with this young man here, and he joined our organization maybe probably about 5 years ago, 5, 6 years ago, and he came into the organization. He knew nothing about the Buffalo Soldiers. He knew nothing about horses. He didn't know how to ride a horse. He was actually a little bit scared of horses.
I can understand. Yes. Yes.
Now you see him here, and he's talking to some young men, and he's kind of breaking down the history. And he's one of our riders, you know. He's one of
Yeah.
our riders that we can count on. Man, he does a great job. He comes out, he's learned the ropes, and he's doing good. Also, just because I'm looking at this picture, I want to highlight somebody else in this picture. That dude back there in the white shirt,
Yeah.
that's my college roommate.
Wow.
That's Blair Brown. He lives down there in the Bay Area, and then him and my cousins down there, they have a program called the Black Neighborhood, where they give back to the Black neighborhood, and they do food drives, and they take young men out of the community and take them to do different young men and women, and they take them to do different things around the Bay Area. And they actually, this is at Defirmary Park.
I was just going to ask you that Defirmary Park.
Yeah. So this is at Defirmary Park, and that's where they gather, and so these are some young folks from their organization that they brought over to our area, our booth, and James there is giving them a little history lesson.
Yeah, well, I recognize that park because it's also known as Bobby Hutton Park.
Yeah.
In there, and we were there. Myself and Elmer Dixon, we were there because they had the 50th anniversary of the Free Breakfast Program, Black Panther Party Free Breakfast Program. So we were there. Yeah, so that's a very With a lot of things happening at that
Oh
park.
yeah, yeah. It's a very historic place
Yeah,
right
very,
there. It's an honor to go down there every year and do what we do. So we actually go down there and we lead their parade off every year.
Is that right?
So yeah, we go down there and we take the flags. We take the American. We take the red, black, and green.
Mm-hmm.
We take the Washington State and our 10th Cavalry Guide on, and we get in formation and we lead that parade.
Wow. Wow. That's outstanding. All right, let's go to another picture. So this looks like you're still at the park, Defirmary
Yep,
Park.
this
yeah.
is still at Defirmary Park
Okay.
here.
All right, yeah. So let's talk about, you mentioned, well, let's talk about two things. Your organization works in the school, works with the schools.
Yep. So we go to schools and we do presentations at schools.
Mhm.
Sometimes we take horses, sometimes we don't.
Gotcha, gotcha. All right. And now you mentioned the cadet program. That's how you got started.
And that's how I got started.
Okay. All right. Benjamin, you have any questions?
Well, I was going back to Bass Reeves, and you know Denzel made a new version of Magnificent Seven.
Mm-hmm.
Did you see that?
Yep, I saw it.
So he kind of got into that role a little bit.
Yeah.
Remember
He
he
tapped
had-
into his inner Bass Reeves and that.
Yeah, and he had the
Seven.
Indian,
Yeah.
he had the Indian following him.
Mm-hmm.
You know. Yeah, and
Yeah.
and I said, wait a minute.
That all makes sense.
Yeah, and then he was announcing who he was when he first got into the town,
Mhm.
that he was some kind of law enforcement officer. Then he said for 42 counties or something, you know, he was
Okay.
a deputy.
Yep.
I said, that's Bass Reeves. You know? Yeah, so he's trying to hook it up for us.
Yeah, make the connection.
So you just reminded me of a scene from another movie. And here I'm gonna talk about a woman, a woman of the West, a black cowgirl. And this was The Hateful Eight. Did you guys get a chance to see The Hateful Eight with Samuel L. Jackson?
Yes.
Yes, Hateful Eight with Samuel L. Jackson. So
yes.
remember, there's a scene where there's a stagecoach, and there's a black woman driving that stagecoach.
Okay.
That black woman that's driving that stagecoach is Stagecoach Mary,
Oh, okay, I've heard of her.
Mary Fields.
Whoa.
And she was one of the first women U.S. mail carriers in the West. And she's one of my favorite people to talk about whenever we go to schools or events, because a lot of people don't know that there was black women of the West as well that played a pretty significant role in cowboy history. So if anybody out there ever gets a chance to look up Stagecoach Mary Fields, she has an awesome story.
Yeah, I've heard of her. Yeah, that's something. Brother Benjamin, did you have some other questions?
No, I'm sitting here fascinated.
Okay, so you do a 4th of July parade.
Not a parade. We do a 4th of July party.
Party, that's what I meant. Yeah, party. Okay.
So we have a party that we throw every year out at the ranch. The brother Jerome that owns the ranch there, he's man, he just does he opens his ranch up for people, and he gets a mechanical bull, a bouncy house for the kids. We normally do a big barbecue where we put a whole bunch of meat on the grill. And it's just a good time, you know, it's a good time. There's music going. We have a whole bunch of different games that we play, you know, country games, ranch style games, you know, horseshoes, tug of war, hay bale toss. We even opened up a new game this year where we was throwing logs. We had this big old log and people were running and you throw the log. And you'd be surprised how much fun it is. You know, people were like, man, throwing logs, that's fun. Well, yeah, you get a couple folks that's lined up that really wants to throw in. These are guys and
Yeah,
girls. You know, we
okay.
have 2 different weights. And, yeah, we just have a good old time.
Wow.
Good old time.
That's outstanding.
It's
So
fun.
now, when is this?
It's not on the 4th of July,
Around that weekend.
but it's around that weekend.
Okay.
So it's around the weekend of the 4th of July. We normally put out flyers online, and a few of the newspapers around might have it in there. And
And where is it located?
it's located at the ranch at Legends Horse Training and Boarding Facility out in Roy, Washington.
All right. Very good. Let's show another picture. We have about hold on, we have about a little less than 3 minutes. Let's just show one more picture, and if we need to go into another show, we can do this. Oh yeah, now look at this picture here.
Okay, so that's Brother James Jones again in that picture. As I said, he's one of our riders, and as you see, that's the red, black, and green behind them. This is in Seattle because I see the Seattle PD car back
Oh, okay,
there.
I see it back there. Yeah.
But I don't know what event this was taken at. We do so many different events here in the Seattle area. That could be the Yamoja Fest. Could be Renton River Days. I'm not.
Not sure, man. You know that's
for
powerful
sure.
because I know you got the American flag and then the Washington State flag. Then you got the red, black, green. That's powerful, man.
Oh yeah, yeah. We definitely
Red,
try
black,
to
and green.
represent.
Yeah, that's bringing it all together.
Yes, sir.
Man, congratulations, man. That is outstanding, man.
Thank you. Thank you.
That is just beautiful. Beautiful. So we got about a minute and a half. Mr. Benjamin over there, you have any other questions or comments?
No, I'm just, like I say, I'm just totally fascinated by all of this, and I'm glad you could make it out to do the show.
Oh man, thank you for the invitation. I believe it was Tana
Yes.
that hooked this
I'll
up.
hook this up. Yeah.
Shout out to Tana.
Yeah.
Thank you.
She's a worker.
Yeah.
She's a worker.
Who hooked it up?
She comes out and enjoys
Tana,
the 4th of
Tana,
July.
You know the sister. You know her.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, and we might. This is part one. We might do a part two. You know, and just kind of go over some things and just bring up some things that we didn't cover because this I knew some things of the Buffalo Soldiers, but I mean this is just opening it up more and more and more. Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't know it was this popular in this part of the country.
Yeah.
Well, we're trying to make it more and more popular. It's
Yeah.
not too many folks are that familiar with the history or familiar with us, but we do our best to get them familiar.
Very good. Very good. Yes, indeed. Well, with that, we'll just wrap up. And then for more information, you have a website and email and so forth and so on. And Buffalo Soldiers, I'm telling you.
Yes, sir.
Yes, indeed. Well, thank you very much. We'll do this.
All right. All right, brother.
Yes.